Hello everyone, this is your professor once again, Danny Araneta Cabulay. Oftentimes, students are asked essay questions and they have major difficulties writing essay questions. That is why I decided to create this short video to give you tips on how to write essay questions and possibly get good grades. Okay? So I hope you will find this video helpful. Well, firstly, bakit ba nagtatanong ang mga teachers ng essay questions? Bakit hindi na lang objective questions ang itanong? For example, multiple choice, true or false, identification, or enumeration. Surely, naka-encounter na kayo ng mga ganyang klase ng objective type of tests. But those type of tests do not really measure the intelligence of students. They only measure their ability to memorize and to remember facts. They do not look into the deeper intelligence of students. For one, I prefer to ask essay questions. That's why when I was asked by the dean to teach the subject recruitment and selection for this semester, I decided that all the examinations, all the quizzes, take-home quizzes, and all the projects that I will give to the students will all be essay. Why? Essay questions actually measure the cognitive ability of students, yung kanilang katalinuhan. I would like to measure their ability to reason. Gusto kong makita kung magaling ba silang mga tuwiran ng tama, hindi yung mga tuwiran ng baluktot. Kasi when you look at social media now, in Facebook, for example, ang daming nangangatwiran ng baluktot doon. So, mali. Okay, so we want to correct that. As a teacher, I want to contribute and create students who will have the ability to reason correctly, okay, with logic. Number two, I want to measure the ability to articulate. Can they express themselves? I want my students to tell me their opinions and perceptions on very important issues, especially those related to our lesson. Number three, I want to measure the students' ability to make decisions. In life, we have so many problems, and we can solve these problems if we make the right decisions. That's why decision making is a function that is manifested when you write beautiful essays. Natuturuan tayo magdesisyon ng tama. Okay? Another reason why I love essay questions is because they enable me to measure the ability of the students to make comparisons. In life, you can inevitably compare things that are similar, things that are different. So can you spot the difference? So the ability to compare can best be manifested in essay questions. Also, the ability to analyze. Because ang mundo ngayon, punong-puno ng kababawan. So gusto natin yung mga bata naman ay magkaroon ng konting lalim sa pag-iisip. Okay? And that is katalinuhan. Okay? So therefore, I want to see how well you analyze problems. Okay? Most of the essay questions are anchored on problems. Problems in companies, problems in society, problems in the government, etc. And finally, I want to measure the ability of the students to integrate everything that they learned. Things they learned in my class, things they learned from other subjects. So when they're able to integrate everything they learned, that is intelligence. Okay? Now, alam nyo na kung bakit favorite ko ang essay questions. The grammar can be addressed later on. No? I'm not very particular about grammar. Maybe that's only about 10% of the points I give, but 90% is content. Kung ano yung nasa puso nyo at nasa utak ninyo, yun ang gusto kong basahin. Yun ang gusto kong maramdaman. Okay? I give consideration even if you make grammar mistakes or spelling errors. But I want you to be conscious about those mistakes. You have to learn to correct your mistakes eventually. Okay? Now, ano ba ang mga steps in making essay questions? Number one, first, you have to understand the question very well. Ano ba ang tinatanong? So you really have to ask what exactly is being asked in this essay question. If you don't know what is being asked, you will be writing a lot of things that are maybe totally not related to the question itself. Therefore, you will not earn a high grade because you're out of the topic. Okay? You did not hit bullseye. You're very, very far from bullseye. The second step is you have to write your first sentence. You know, the first sentence in any essay question should be the answer, your answer to the question. So answer directly. Kasi tayong mga Pilipino, mahilig tayo sa pasakalye, introduction, mahilig tayo sa background information. Ang haba-haba ng sinasabi natin, pero hindi natin natutumbok yung question. In the end, there is a possibility we might forget the answer because we're so immersed, masyado tayong nakabaon, masyado tayong engross dyan sa ating pagkwekwento ng background information. So we miss the point. So tanggalin yung practice na yan. Tanggalin yung habit na yan. So the first sentence I want to read in an essay question should be the answer to the question. Okay? That is a very important tip. That is step number 2. Step number 3, you can now amplify or support your answer. So after writing the first sentence, which is the answer to the question, the second, the third, the fourth, and succeeding sentences should now be the supporting facts to amplify, to strengthen your position, to strengthen your answer, to support the first sentence. That is the third step. So you can write as long as you want. You can write 10 sentences to support the first sentence. How do you strengthen that? You explain, you rationalize, you give examples. Maybe you can narrate your personal example, your personal experiences. So those are all good amplifications, okay? So that is how you write your supporting sentences to strengthen your answer in an essay question. And then step number 4, observe the required number of words. Oftentimes, essay questions will require you to write within a range. Let's say, write an essay within 50 to 70 words or minimum of 100 words or 150 to 200 words. Whatever it is, you have to follow that. Because if you don't follow the parameters, the required number of words, chances are baka meron kang deduction na points, okay? So you will not maximize the grade that you should get, okay? Therefore, pay attention to the required number of words. And the final step is edit your work. What I mean by edit your work, basahin mo. Maganda bang basahin yung sinulat mo? Okay? Tama ba ang grammar? Check the spelling. Baka meron mga typographical errors. Then, if you're happy, then you can submit your essay. You can submit them electronically to your teacher. Okay? That is how you write an essay question. I'll give you some examples. Do you remember that question I asked about Japan hosting the 2020 Olympics, which was postponed, and it could happen anytime between 2021 and 2022, next year, this year or next year. So when that happens, as the host nation, Japan, the Japanese government, will be recruiting employees and volunteers not only from Japan, but from neighboring Asian countries, including the Philippines. So syempre, maraming mga Pilipino interesado magtrabaho sa Japan even for 6 months for the Olympics kasi they will hire people in advance, 6 months in advance. Kaya kung yung Olympics ay July, most likely February, March, mag-hire na sila. And then the employees will stay there for about 6 months until after the Olympic Games is over, until August, okay? So they will also hire volunteers, but volunteers are also paid. Volunteers sila pero meron silang allowance at maganda yung bayad, okay? Ang tanong, what should the Philippine government do, no, in relation to promoting this recruitment campaign by the Japanese government? If they will be recruiting in the Philippines, how can the government of the Philippines help or support this program? Well, medyo complicated yung tanong na yan. So, intindihin natin. So, ang tinatanong natin dito, ano yung gagawin ng Philippine government? Okay? Dalawa ang pwedeng gawin ng Philippine government. So, the sentence that I would like to read is, what will the Philippine government do? So, you can say something like, the Philippine government, through the OWA, or the Overseas Workers Welfare Association, should provide ample support to the Filipinos who are interested in this program. Or maybe the Philippine government, through OWA, should provide ample support towards this program by the Japanese government. That is the preferred answer. Okay, makikipagtulungan. Paano makikipagtulungan? Explain natin. So the succeeding sentences could be, the Philippine government should require agencies who will be recruiting employees and volunteers for the Tokyo Olympics and help them screen the applicants to ensure that the best volunteers and employees are hired or accepted. After all, they will represent the country and they will promote good image of the Philippines. Now, what can be done? The Philippine government can initiate or support an orientation of all the hired employees and volunteers for the Tokyo Olympics. They should be given an orientation on Japanese culture and traditions. So these employees will not make mistakes when they get to Japan, and they will respect Japanese culture. It is also important to give them an orientation on labor laws of Japan, so they will not violate labor laws. Okay? Kasi employers have responsibilities, and so do employees also. And they should be given an orientation on work standards. Okay? So what is good for the Olympics and what is not acceptable when you are an employee or volunteer in the Olympics. Okay, that's a total of 7 sentences. So there you go, that's your essay. Okay, so that's how a good answer for that essay question should look like. Now, there is another example I'd like to give. Remember, there was a question about case number 2 on Max's. Max's restaurant is expanding and they have now so many brands like Krispy Kreme, Pancake House, Jamba Juice, and so on and so forth. So the questions were, is it better to centralize or decentralize the HR function? And we know the HR function is composed of personnel management, which includes recruitment and selection, compensation, discipline, and then there's also training and development. Then there is also labor relations and organizational development. So mas maganda ba na ang HR function ay nakacentralize sa head office o bawat kumpanya ng Max's o bawat brand ng Max's ay may kanya-kanyang HR department? Okay? So that means yung Krispy Kreme may sarili siyang HR department, yung Max's may sarili siyang HR department, yung Jamba Juice may sarili siyang HR department, yung Pancake House may sarili siyang HR department, at yung Yellow Cab may sarili siyang department. Kasi yun ang mga brands ng Max's. Okay? So ngayon, ang pagsagot sa question na yan, dapat pipili kayo. You have to make a decision. The decision should be, gusto ba ninyo centralized or gusto ba ninyo decentralized? Okay? Hindi pwedeng dalawa ang sagot kasi marami mga estudyante naniniguro, nandun sila sa gitna. Sasabihin lang na, I would like Max's to centralize the HR function. But at the same time, it is also good to decentralize. Ano pa talaga, kuya? Okay? So you have to make a decision. Would you like it centralized or do you want it decentralized? Hindi pwedeng dalawa ang sagot. Pag dalawa ang nilagay mo sa paper mo, nakaka-confuse yan. Okay? Isa lang ang piliin mo, wala ka nang babanggitin pang iba. Huwag mo nang banggitin. Pag gusto mo centralize na. Support that answer. Huwag mo nang banggitin yung decentralization kasi malilito yung magche-check ng papel. Okay? Namamangka ka sa dalawang ilog. Hindi pwede yan. Sa essay question, that's a big no-no. Hindi ka firm. Gusto mo maging HR professional, you have to be firm. Make a choice. Okay? So that means, ganun sumasagot kapag hinihingi ang ating decision. Okay? So, in this type of question, there is no right or wrong answer. Kung ang sagot mo ay centralization, you want to centralize HR, pwede rin yun. Basta maganda ang iyong paliwanag. Maganda ang iyong reasoning, you will get the highest grade. Okay? Which is 100%. Kung ang gusto mo naman ay decentralization, you better justify that. If you're able to justify that at maganda ang iyong paliwanag, you could also get the highest grade. So walang correct or wrong answer sa question na iyan. Okay? And then of course, you may want to support whatever your answer with what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of centralizing or decentralizing the HR function. Pag pinili mo ay centralizing, i-justify mo siya. Ano yung positive points at ano yung negative points. Kapag ang gusto mo naman ay decentralization, ano ang advantages at disadvantages ng option na yan? Okay? Dapat clear tayo dyan. And finally, the last example I want to give is that essay question I asked about the tourists, how to protect the tourists in Boracay, in Palawan, and other tourist area destinations in the country. Kasi merong mga kababaihan na nare-report na nagagahasa, they are being raped by boatmen and tour guides. Can you imagine that? So that's a problem. It's a black spot, a negative image for our tourism industry. So the question was, what should the job specification of these two positions, boatman and tour guide, contain? Ano ba dapat ang nilalaman ng mga job specification nila? To make sure that the right kind of boatmen and tour guides would be hired in the future. Now, tanungin ko kayo, ano ba yung tanong na yon? Tinatanong ano ba ang nilalaman dapat ng job specification. So dapat naintindihan mo yung lecture on job specification. Ano ba yung job specification? Ang job specification ay isang dokumento na nilalaman niya yung mga katangian ng isang empleyado para sa posisyon na bakante. Okay? So ang hinahanap natin, boatmen at saka tour guides. Okay? Ano ba ang katangian nila? Para masiguro na tama ang ma-hire natin, hindi sila manggagahasa, hindi sila mangbabastos na mga babae na turista. So, maraming pwedeng sagot dyan. Pwedeng gusto natin, the boatman and the tour guide should have pleasing personality. Paano natin malaman ng pleasing personality? Through the interview. Kailangan yung mga boatman at tour guide merong integrity at saka good character, mababait at magagalang at honest. Paano natin malaman yan? Hingan natin ng police clearance or NBI clearance or barangay clearance. Okay? Saka character reference. Pwede tayong mag-background check. Okay? And finally, kailangan ang mga tour guides at boatman mataas ang standard of service para sa mga turista. Kasi karamihan sa mga turista, foreigners. Okay? So paano natin may bibigay yan? Through the orientation. Binibigyan sila ng orientation bago sila i-deploy. Okay? So yun ang mga pwedeng isagot dun sa unang tanong na yon. Yung pangalawang tanong, what other interventions can you suggest to prevent this kind of untoward incidents towards tourists? No? Yung namomolestya yung mga babaeng turista. Marami rin pwedeng sagot dyan. Pwede tayo magkaroon ng mga company policies para sa mga tour operators, maggawa sila ng mga policies that will prevent these incidents from happening. Pangalawa, code of conduct or code of discipline. Para itong mga boatman at tour guides natin disiplinado. Okay? They will behave professionally. Okay? And number 3, guest feedback mechanism. Pagkatapos ng isang tour, itong mga turista pwede mag-fill up ng form o kaya online o kaya ite-text nila sa isang hotline ano ang naging karanasan nila during the tour. Okay? So pwede nilang i-report kung meron nangyaring hindi maganda. Okay? At pang-apat, pwede rin magkaroon ng hotline, a text number or maybe a telephone number or an email address wherein the customer or the guest, the tourist, can make a complaint. At diretso yan sa pulis, no? Pwede yan dumiretso sa pulis, naka-hotline, para sila ay maaresto o ma-apprehend ng mga otoridad yung mga gumawa ng kalokohan. So yun ang mga pwedeng intervention. Maganda rin kung yung kapulisan sa mga tourist destinations ay nagro-ronda para matatakot yung mga gagawa ng kalokohan. Okay? So that's how you answer an essay question. Okay? Malaman at saka direct to the point at saka naipaliwanag mabuti. I hope itong mga tips na to ay makakatulong sa inyo sa pagsagot ng mga essay questions in the future. I want you to get good grades in my subject and in your other subjects. Mabuhay kayong lahat. Thank you.